Hi guys, I'm logging out and today we are back with the fifth devlog of the Electorate. Today we are gonna... The question is how voters vote. In a general sense, voters vote based on the issue that matter to them. Whatever is about how the economy should be run, if they think AI should be more or less regulated, or whatever healthcare is a human right, voters tend to pick candidates that most closely identify with their personal positions. Furthermore, these positions are informed by their ideology. In the electorate, this dynamic is modeled through the ideology groups, of which make an evaluation about who they want to vote for based on their position on issues and the weighted importance of those issues. There are 8 ideology groups and 10 key issues in any given election scenario. We talked about that in the previous dialogue, if you remember. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. It's an order. Today we'll discuss the 2024 scenario as our example, but these groups and issues will differ by year and are also customizable. This is epic. If you guys wanna create your own scenario that I will play in the game, it will be fantastic. Ideology groups. The electorate utilizes 8 ideology groups to determine vote shares to each candidate taking part in a race. In the 2024 scenario, the 8 groups are progressive, social democrats, liberals, moderates, libertarians, populists, conservatives, social conservatives. Now get ready for some technical information, because the way these groups figure out who they want to vote for requires a somewhat calculated algorithm. Let's go. The electorate utilizes an algorithm called a multinomial logit spatial voting model. I will call it Giorgio. It simulates voter choice by positioning ideologies and candidates on a 1 to 9 scale across 10 issues, with each ideology assigning importance weights to those issues. The model does some math to find the distance of a candidate's position relative to the ideology group, checks the weighted importance of those issues, and then determines a utility value. The utility is then used to find the probability of an ideology group voting for a particular candidate when weighted against the other candidates in an election. What this means is that there is an incredible amount of realism in how these ideologies select candidates. It also means that primaries are incredibly competitive, and while yes, those render some candidates as unelectable if they are too moderate for the party, it also makes them a particularly strong general election candidate if they happen to win the primary. If you pay attention to general election polls during primary seasons, the moderates of each party tend to poll very well in a one-on-one matchup with the opposing party, but tend to lag in their own party's primaries. In the general election, the model is quite accurate as well. A matchup between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump in California waged out to 59% to 41%, which is only a few points off from the 58% to 38% final tally in the actual election. If you add Bernie Sanders as a spoiler candidate running as independent, Donald Trump actually wins California by a few points, because Sanders wins 68% of the progressive bloc, California's largest voter base, but split the rest of the Democratic Party down the middle with Harris. However, as you might recall from a previous devlog, turnout is the actual mechanism for winning an election, and that's not different here. While each ideology may have their voting preferences, that doesn't mean they'll actually show up to vote. Candidates must spend the rest of the election turning out voters, regardless of their ideology or party. Donald Trump only received 0.02% of progressive voters at the start of the 2024 scenario, but with the turnout, he may well receive 1% of their votes, although his efforts will be better spent elsewhere. Turnout also makes it possible to differentiate between independents and the major minor parties. It would be very unlikely that Bernie Sanders, as an independent, would siphon off enough votes from Kamala Harris to deliver California to Trump. Therefore, independent candidates receive a major turnout disadvantage at the beginning of the game, while the major parties start at a higher threshold. However, if you want to mix it up, you can easily adjust this setting prior to an election, make independence as competitive as you want. I'm still exploring ways to make independence more competitive organically. But, as you might know, the nature of America's two-party system makes this difficult. A random event might do the trick, though. One major point before we wrap up, this will be a very short devlog, and the next one will be shorter. But don't worry, the seventh one will be huge, very huge. Voters vote for candidates, not parties. The game is programmed around candidates owning their votes. This allows for cross-party voting, but most importantly, an abundance of candidates. At the moment, you can play an election with up to 10 candidates, with an aim for more at some point. This will be great because we know that in the 2016 Republican primaries there were like 16, 18, I don't remember exactly, candidates at some point, and in the 2020 primary elections of the Democratic Party, there were 29 candidates. Very huge numbers. I can't wait to play this game, guys. I'm really excited. Thank you so much for watching this really short video, and I see you in the next one. Bye, guys.